Right. So, you know that YouTube video you sent over about the Moses Protocol?
Yeah.
The ones suggesting we eat like ancient Israelites for like optimal wellness?
Yeah, it's quite a unique perspective.
It is a unique perspective.
Yeah.
It's very creative.
Yeah.
So get ready to explore that because we're going to deep dive into that today and try to uncover if ancient wisdom can actually like hack modern health, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting how they kind of draw those parallels between, manna and quail and what we're putting on our plates today in the 21st century.
Yeah, if the ancients were onto something, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
So is there actually any science behind aligning our meals with, biblical times?
Well, you bring up a really good point. And while we might not be, wandering through the desert ourselves these days,
Right.
the concept of chrononutrition, which is essentially looking at how the timing of our meals actually affects our health, that's definitely a growing area of scientific interest.
Okay, chrononutrition, that sounds pretty official. So it's like our internal clocks are just as important as calorie counts.
Exactly.
Okay.
While this Moses protocol might seem,
A little out there.
a tad out there,
Yeah.
framing dietary advice through this biblical lens, it does tap into this idea that when we eat can be just as crucial as what we eat.
Okay.
So it's almost like we're trying to fine-tune our body's natural rhythms for, you know, optimal energy and recovery.
So instead of just focusing on, macros and micros, we're talking about like strategizing our meals around our body's internal schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and the video mentioned...
They mentioned something about like carbs being like the manna, like the fuel for the day,
Right.
and then protein and fats being kind of like the evening quail.
Precisely.
Right.
So they're suggesting that you consume, carbohydrates during those active hours when you need the energy, much like, athletes would carb load before, intense training. And then as we kind of transition into rest and recovery, we want to prioritize protein and fats, which is where that, evening quail symbol comes in.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the connection here a little bit. But before we go too far down the rabbit hole, can you break down chrononutrition a little bit more for me? Like what kind of impact are we talking about here?
Well, imagine your body operating on this 24-hour cycle.
Okay.
Where you have these various systems from your metabolism to hormone production, all kind of ebbing and flowing.
Right.
And chrononutrition is really exploring how aligning our meals with those rhythms can influence everything from your blood sugar control and energy levels to your sleep quality.
Oh.
And even, long-term health outcomes.
So timing our meals strategically could actually impact not just our waistlines, but also our sleep and overall well-being.
You got it.
This is making me rethink my late-night snacking habits.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think twice.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that really kind of piqued my curiosity in the video was this whole idea of muscles using glucose differently.
Okay.
They were saying something about active muscles not even needing insulin to grab that sugar energy. Is that legit?
That's a great question. And it's actually a perfect example of how this Moses protocol, while presented, unconventionally,
Right.
does touch upon some real physiological phenomena.
Okay.
You see, during exercise, particularly intense activity,
Okay.
our muscles have this incredible ability to take up glucose for fuel independently of insulin.
Hold on. Really? No insulin required.
You got it.
That's the game changer.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So my muscles are like, thanks, but no thanks. Insulin, we got this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not quite as simple as that.
Okay.
But you've hit the nail on the head with the enthusiasm.
Okay.
What happens during exercise is a special protein called GLUT4, which is essentially a glucose transporter. It gets activated in our muscle cells. And this activation allows glucose to enter the muscle cells directly from the bloodstream, bypassing that typical insulin-dependent pathway.
GLUT4, eh?
Yeah.
That sounds like a superhero for muscle fuel.
Yeah, you could say that.
So while insulin still plays a crucial role in regulating our overall blood sugar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our muscles have a plan B during workouts.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can think of it as our muscles having this direct line to the glucose they need when the demand is high, ensuring that they have the energy to power through those intense workouts.
That's incredible. It's like our bodies are amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like our muscles have this secret superpower to tap into energy reserves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it highlights how our bodies have evolved these incredible mechanisms to adapt and thrive in all these different situations.
It makes you wonder what other like hidden systems we might have.
I know, exactly.
But speaking of systems, the video also touched on this whole idea of food combining. The pull down effect, I think they called it.
Yeah.
It sounded a bit like, dietary dogma.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear your take on that.
Ah, yes, the pull-down effect.
Yeah.
While not exactly a scientific term,
Right.
it does allude to the concept of food combining,
Okay.
which has been, a recurring theme in various dietary theories throughout history.
So the name might be a bit out there, but there's a real concept behind it?
Essentially, food combining, as the name suggests,
Right.
revolves around this idea that certain food combinations are inherently more difficult for our bodies to digest.
Okay.
Proponents of this theory often suggest that eating certain foods together can lead to, digestive upset,
Right.
bloating, or even like hinder nutrient absorption.
Okay, so the theory is that our digestive system is like a delicate orchestra, and if you hit the wrong notes together,
Yeah.
it all falls apart.
That's a very musical way to put it. And while it's true that some food combinations might be like slightly harder on the digestive system than others,
Right.
this notion of a dramatic pull-down effect is a bit of an oversimplification.
Okay.
Our digestive systems are actually remarkably adaptable
Okay.
and designed to handle, a wide variety of foods.
So maybe not time to ditch my peanut butter and banana sandwiches just yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
While some individuals might have sensitivities to specific food combinations,
Right.
there's no need to get bogged down by, overly restrictive rules.
Okay.
The key is to pay attention to your body and notice how it responds to different foods and combinations.
That makes sense. Listen to your body.
Yeah,
Usually pretty good at giving us signals.
exactly.
So we've got this fascinating mix of ancient inspiration and modern science.
Yeah,
On one hand, we've got manna and quail, and on the other hand, we're talking about, chrononutrition, GLUT4 transporters, and the nuances of digestion. It's almost like this Moses protocol, despite its unconventional packaging.
yeah.
It's kind of just nudging us to reconnect with our body's natural rhythms
Right.
and make, more mindful food choices.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Okay.
And it speaks to this broader idea that sometimes those ancient practices,
Right.
those traditions passed down through generations,
Right.
might hold, these kernels of wisdom that can still be relevant today.
Okay.
It's about kind of bridging that gap
Mm.
between, ancestral knowledge and modern scientific understanding.
Absolutely. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle. It's
Exactly.
using both the old and the new to create a more complete picture of health and well-being.
I like that.
It's like that saying, what's old is new again.
Right.
But this time it's about, ancient dietary wisdom potentially holding clues for modern health.
Exactly.
Speaking of which,
Uh,
the video did mention athletes quite a bit.
Right.
Something about how this Moses protocol kind of aligns with how they approach nutrition.
Absolutely. Yeah. The video draws these interesting parallels between the Moses Protocol and the strategies that athletes employ in various disciplines.
Oh.
For example, this concept of consuming carbs during periods of high energy expenditure, like the Israelites supposedly did with the manna, right?
Right.
Aligns with the practice of carb loading that's really common among endurance athletes.
Ah, so instead of fueling up for, like, a chariot race across the desert,
Yeah,
it's more like loading up on carbs before a marathon or a big game.
exactly.
Makes sense.
And just as the Moses Protocol emphasizes protein and fats during those rest periods, symbolized by, the evening quail, athletes really prioritize protein intake after their workouts to support muscle recovery and repair.
So even though it's framed within this, like, ancient narrative, there are elements of the Moses Protocol that resonate with, modern sports nutrition practices.
Well, precisely. And it speaks to this idea that while we've made these significant advancements in our understanding of nutrition and exercise physiology,
Right.
there are often these valuable lessons to be learned from those traditional practices.
It's like we're rediscovering the power of aligning our food choices with our body's natural rhythms, whether we're, training for the Olympics or just navigating our daily lives.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It's been fun.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you, our listener.
Yeah.
What resonated with you most about the Moses Protocol?
Yeah, did it spark any new ideas about how you approach your meals or think about, food timing?
We've covered a lot of ground today, from ancient biblical references
Yeah.
to cutting edge science.
Right.
But ultimately, I think the most valuable takeaway here is the importance of approaching any dietary advice,
Yeah.
whether ancient or modern, with a critical and curious mind.
Absolutely.
Listen to your body, pay attention to how it responds to different foods and eating patterns,
Right.
and don't be afraid to, experiment and find what works best for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So the next time you're planning your meals, remember this, intriguing connection between those ancient Israelites and their manna and quail.
Yeah.
While we might not be wandering the desert,
Right.
we can still draw inspiration from their approach and consider how aligning our food choices with our body's natural rhythms might unlock, a new level of health and well-being.
I like it.
Until next time, happy listening and even happier eating.